All right. Well, we'd like to welcome everybody back to the Trampled Underfoot Podcast show. And we record live every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern and 6:30 Pacific here on YouTube. That's Trampled Underfoot Podcast on YouTube. And these are your hosts, Mark Lindsay and Eloy Escajedo. How you doing, Mark?
I think I'm going to make it. It was touch and go earlier, but I think I'm going to make it.
Well, all right.
I think it was Red Skelton who once said that any morning I wake up and I don't see candles or smell flowers, I know it's going to be a good day. So,
yeah.
I mean, I wake up and let life happen, and that's what we do.
Hey, man, I'm all about going with the flow, right?
You have to. I mean, you're kind of choiceless. I mean, you can fight it if you want, but why? Just let it happen, man.
I mean, you come to certain conclusions as you trek on through this messy thing we call existence, and we do with what we can with the ability that we have, and the rest, well, we leave it up to the powers that be.
Yeah, well, sometimes you're choiceless, sometimes you're not, but I'm a lot more pleasant to be around when I'm not yelling. And, it's just, why spend your life angry? I mean, enjoy it. We get one ride that we know of. We get one ride. So might as well have some fun with it.
The problem I have with that sort of discipline in behavior, although it sounds like, a plan, is that as soon as you decide to go down a route, our emotions are so, stormy. And it could be from one minute to the next, or from one day to the next, or 1 week, month, year, whatever. But there's so much, you always have to steer the ship back to that you want to be, where you want to be at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're absolutely right. And you got to keep one hand on the rudder while you're keeping your eyes open and, peering off into the distance to make sure that you're on course or what have you. And obstacles are going to pop up in your way, but you're still cruising, right?
Keep your hand on the rudder, wash after use, do not shake.
Mm-hmm. And store it in a cool, dry place. Close cover before striking. Yeah. I mean, I got a million of them. I keep going. But yeah, so long as you're still cruising and you're still making progress, and I guess, I don't know. I look around a little bit and we're kind of treading on current events, and I won't get into that, but current attitudes more than anything else. I think we have kind of, and me especially, lost our ability to enjoy what we got. We just want to keep getting more. We keep want to acquiring more. And is there ever really a time where somebody says, put a fork in it, it's done. Let's enjoy what we got and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Now, I say this as I'm building a new workshop. So, there's always room for improvement or what have you. But, I want to get to the point to where I can enjoy what I have and not constantly be looking, at the neighbors and trying to keep up with the Joneses and everything. And, oh man, he's got a very cool chainsaw over there. Well, there's nothing wrong with the one I got. It does the job. And it's not like I'm out logging for a living or something like that. So, there is a point where it's just good enough. And, but I'm looking around and I'm not seeing that even my friends and family. I'm seeing a lot of, oh man, if I only had a better this or a bigger that or a nicer the other, whatever. And it's like, well, what's wrong with the one you got?
Hey man, I'm totally with you. The way I look at it is, do you want to be that Egyptian guy that was lugging around truckloads of, as if there were trucks, truckloads of frickin' stones and pebbles and this and that? Or do you want to be the Egyptian guy that was sitting under that palm tree way over there by the river, in a little hammock, swinging left and right and looking at the others and as they're doing that, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm gonna daydream. No, see, I don't necessarily. And for what? You've got your pyramid built, but now what? Okay, it's time to make your little mummy. What do they call it?
The mausoleum, yes.
Sarcophagi. And then you tuck right up in there. They wrap you with some of those little cloths dipped in some sort of honey resin, I don't know what, and you call it done. No.
But who's to say he's just sitting under that shade tree? If he's on the bank of the river, who's to say he's not trying to catch tonight's dinner?
Well, that's true.
I mean, if you're sitting, that's what I refer to fishing as. Fishing is constructive laziness because you have to sit down, shut up, and be quiet while you're attempting to catch dinner. So it is constructive. There is a purpose to it, but you have to be still, keep a low silhouette, sit down, so you don't spook away dinner.
Would you rather be the guy that trekked out west? Maybe he had a wagon, maybe not, with some stuff, and then you found a nice little patch and you built a little log cabin or whatnot, and you set up camp, and or do you want to be the guy back east, back in the 50s, stuck in the middle of that crazy noisy town, which was probably well, no, there were still a truckload of people even back then in those, so yeah. What kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be, free of it all, or do you want to be in the thick of it, and the benefits, I think the benefits that that you must weigh in the balance.
They both have benefits, and also a person's age and circumstance matters. If I was in my 20s, knowing what I know now, or even just knowing what I knew back then in my 20s, I might want to be that guy on the wagon or walking beside the wagon, throwing firewood up into the sow's belly to make the fire tonight. Maybe I wouldn't have minded that, and maybe in my late 20s and early 30s I wouldn't have minded building that cabin. But I'm close to 60, and I'm my cabin building days are about done, and now I just want to throw another log on the fire, pet the dog, and contemplate what's going to go on for dinner tonight.
I just want to throw another log.
Yeah, well, so
I'm sorry.
No, that is the case sometimes.
See, and the funny thing about that is that's going to be left there for posterity.
Yeah,
Can you believe these people back in the 21st century?
Yeah, really, such uncouth, undignified individuals.
I mean,
but, that brings me to something that you reminded me of last week that kind of dovetails in with what we're talking about now, and that is the concept of a bucket list.
Oh, thank goodness. I thought you were going to say a bucket with water.
Well,
tucked under the bed.
Water may be in that bucket list, okay. But maybe you want to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel. I don't know. Have you even contemplated something like that? These are a few things I want to do before I get too old to be able to do them. Have you even a bucket list?
Oh, okay.
Bucket full of things you want to do before you kick the bucket.
I don't. To be honest, well, there might be random lists. I never have operated in bucket list format. I've always operated in I'm traveling down the road, and if something catches my fancy, I'm going to explore it and juice it for what, as much as I've never preordained something in my head. There are a few things, but not. It's funny. I haven't done. I know a lot of people do, but I haven't necessarily like big bucket list type things. I have a few, but nothing.
Yeah, before I even heard the phrase bucket list, there were a few things that I wanted to do, and I've done most of them because I'm a very low goal kind of guy. I don't set the bar very high because I try to make it reasonable so that there's a possibility of attaining it. As far as traveling is concerned, yeah, there's a few places I'd like to go, but there's no gnawing passion that I have to go do or see this one thing before I die. There's nothing like that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I've had the fortune to be able to, I've lived in 14 states, got to live in Europe and travel around Europe during some wild times when the Berlin Wall came down. Um, lived in Hawaii, lived, all over the place, and got to immerse myself in different cultures and explore both culture, food, dress, attire. I mean, just the local color, if you will. And that's always been a lot of fun and a real interesting concept to me. But as far as a bucket list, I don't have this list of things that I have to do before it's too late. Um, I tend to do a lot less traveling now, more because I want to focus on what's going on right here, and I got things I want to get done. But I guess maybe if I had a bucket list, it would be to have this yard finally landscaped so I could put down the shovel and not pick it back up. So,
Yeah.
but I think as long as I have a wife who's into gardening, I'm going to be digging holes. So, yeah. Hey, but that's, she had a knee replacement, so she can't. There's something she can't do anymore, and I don't mind. Yeah.
Well,
So.
as far as travel, I guess there is the obvious one for me would be to visit the home and origin of practically where my surname comes from. Just one single spot on this. And when I say when my surname comes from, everybody living that remembers anyone from the past, going into the 1600s and then starting to fade into the 1500s came from that one spot, and that would be cool for me to visit. Now, I'd also like to visit, and that's Cantabria in the north.
Okay.
And I'd also like to visit the south because I have, on my maternal side from Malaga, and I would like to visit that, which is a whole different area. And I'd like to visit the Canary Islands because I also have so I'd like to visit. I'd also like to visit. Boy, I do have a. I don't know if these are realistic. Within they are realistic. Anything is realistic, but I don't know that I've put a bucket list on it. But now that I'm thinking, I'd love to go visit. It's funny, but Liverpool. I know that probably people in Liverpool say, "Yeah, why?" But to see the Beatles stomping grounds,
Yeah.
I think that would be. But not only for that, because to see the castles as well. In all these places, to see the castles, I'd love to do that. It would be an adventurous thing for me. So yeah, I'd like to visit the two places, and I know there's many others, but I'd like to visit Spain and then England, just all throughout, just because I enjoy the history, So, I'd like to travel America, but travel in a way that it's very laid back, stop to stop, and really just, wander, take in the historical things, that kind of thing in the context of stepping back into the past while in the present, that I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one regret or regret for those of you who can speak. That's one regret I do have, and that is the entire time we were in Europe, we were not able to get over to Great Britain at all. And the closest we got was Paris, and that's still pretty far away. It's far enough. But we did get to travel around Western Europe quite a bit, and after the wall came down, we did get to go over to the East German side, the former East German side, and we went 4th of July weekend, 1990. And was it 1990 or 1991? Help me out, Linda. I know she's over in the chat. It was either 4th of July weekend, 1990 or 1991. And we just drove off the map because when we got there, the road maps that we had of West Germany ended. You had this area around the border called the 1K zone. It was 1 kilometer wide on each side, within each side of the border. And the maps stopped at that 1K zone. And we just drove off the map and had no idea where we were going. And it was culture shock for us in that it looked like time stopped in 1947. Okay, she says 1990. And it was really, really eye-opening. It was a lot of fun. And we've talked about it before. But being able to go back and explore things like that, I just wish that I had been able to get over to the UK. Because
I would love to I would have loved to do that. Well, we have our buddy JP. There's many people out there, so we might as well say hello to them. JP hails from Margate, Florida, but is actually living in Margate, England. So yeah, he's got some pretty awesome landmarks close by. But let me just mention we have a few people here, and that's Steve Nealon from Harneal Media, Portal Woodworks. We have Lindsay. Guy Brown is visiting. Hello, Guy. We have Frankie CNC and Woodworking Channel. And we also have Jim Dockrell visiting us from the cold tundra up north next to that lake up there. I just can't quite, but there's an actual body of water. I don't know. They say, and then we have Harju in the house. So that's pretty darn good. I'll tell you what.
My wife Linda got to go over to Scotland in 2017. She's a bagpiper, and her band went over and competed in the World Bagpiping Championships, and they had a good time. They spent a lot of time playing music, and it was pretty much a grind. I don't know, you're an old gigging musician. You know how that is when you're dragging your arse, just going from one club to the next. Well, they were going from one venue to the next, and some of them involved the use of putting the whole band on a bus, and some of them were close enough by that they could walk. But it was really, I didn't get to go. I was working at the time, and somebody had to stay here and feed the dogs. So
I mean, we didn't have 5 night events in a row, so nothing like that. But yeah, we did do our playing around that. It's fun though. That's fun.
I've never had the experience. I mean, I've been the I don't want to say groupie and I don't want to say roadie, but I've been that guy who hangs around with the band and run and fetches water and ice and stuff like that, because my wife likes to keep me around. I carry the cooler, and I get to go backstage and do stuff like that and hang around with the band while they're tuning up and getting ready to go out and perform and what have you. So there's a little bit of fun involved in that, but a lot of it is also the fact that you get access to areas that the general public doesn't get access to, which is also a lot of fun. So
when I was in California, I because I did a lot of busking here in Miami, and I did so as well in California. I got myself, because over there you need a license for it, so they'll give you like a light, and then it's a laminated thing, or I think I laminated it. I think they gave me the sheet, and then I don't know which one I did, but eventually it became laminated. It was a green piece of paper, and it said, you are permitted to, play in this section, blah, blah, blah. And I was standing by the pier and just playing my guitar, and with the case open and stuff, and you'd get some coins here and there, but this one guy come up, and he said, "Hey, man, I want you to play." I forget the song, but he said, "I want you to play this and that." I said, "Oh, I don't know that one." He says, "Okay, how about this one?" "No, I don't know that one." "No, how about this one?" "Nope, I don't know that one." "How about this?" And I said, "How about an Elvis song?" I told him.
Well, you got me beat. There's literally no end to the music I don't know. The only thing I can play is the stereo.
I narrowed it down, and he said, "Okay." He says, "Okay, yeah, sure." And so I played it, right? And there was people there. And after I finished playing, I remember he took out his wallet and he busted out a $20 bill and went flap right into it. I was like, Well, holy smokes! I said, "Thank you, sir." I was like, "Oh my goodness, 20 beans!"
Uh,
So that was pretty cool. And I did play the I guess it's in the Sunset Strip. I had my name
uh,
put up in light. So what they do, I don't know if people know, but what they do with these places is that, like, let's say you're a band, and I didn't have a band out there, but I played like a solo guy. And so what you do is you rent out the venue and you sell the tickets. So it's on you to make the money of the rental of the place, be it the Whiskey a Go Go or whatever number of different venues they have on the Sunset Strip and all those places. And but they also have, in the smaller ones, there's bars and stuff with various stages and stuff. And I played in one called the Crooked Bar,
okay.
which was a place where the Doors. I made it because the Doors were a big thing, and to me, I thought of the Doors when I thought there's so many other bands, but at that time, I was thinking of the Doors. I played at the Crooked Bar, which the Doors had played at, and I also played at it's called a deli something. There's a name for it, where the Doors played as well. There's a deli next door, and then there's a bar attached to it and a
Mhm.
stage, and the Doors played there too. I played there as well. I played at a place called the Cowboy Palace, which was great. I didn't know any cowboy songs. Everybody's dressed with boots and hats and stuff. And I walked in with my stuff. They had a house band in there, and I signed up to do the thing. And it's funny because I didn't have any, but I saw the crowd. I'm like, crap, I don't have any cowboy songs, you know. And so I ended up playing some blues, but sped up. I forget the actual song, which it was, but it was like a rock and roll blues slash thing. And boy, the band fell in so good. I mean, I could have taken that band with me on the road. They were so in line with what I was doing, and I would turn around and look at them when we were playing the song. And the keyboard player was, and the drummer was. They were having fun with it.
Mhm.
All the other ones were like, you know,
Yeah.
clank, click, clank, 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 clank. And this was like more the rock and roll, right? The 60s, 50s, 60s. So I had a great, but nothing, and over here, but nothing like you have to go to this gig. You have to. It was of my own device and stuff.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, the over there they were kind of, I won't say so much as contractually obligated as it was expected of them, because you're over in Scotland, the home of the pipe band and everything, and everybody who goes to Scotland wants to see bagpipe bands play. So when you basically pay your entry fee and you're going to compete in the World Piping Championships, they want you to play somewhere for the tourists and for the other bands that have come to compete as well. And there was a rotating schedule, and they were on one of those schedules, and they went and played a few gigs, and then they did a couple of smaller competitions that were, I say smaller, they weren't that much smaller because they happened within a few days of the championships there, but they were lesser well known outside of Scotland, and just had a good old time, just gave it a good go. They were over there for 2 weeks, and her and her sister went. And the trip was surprisingly affordable. It wasn't as expensive as I really thought it was going to be. But by planning ahead and planning it out and prepaying a lot of things, it was surprisingly affordable. So, but I think my traveling days are coming closer and closer to an end. I mean, I've got an event coming up this year, if it doesn't get canceled, down in San Diego, which is about, if you were to drive straight through, about 14 hours. And that's a stretch for me anymore. So, I believe in taking my time and getting there in my time. And that's what we're going to do. But
Yeah, that's
we're
how
going
it
to be
should be.
down for that. But other than that, I think the farthest I've gone is I went to Portland to drop Linda and her sister off to fly to Scotland. Other than that, we just don't go much. We just don't go much. We've got things to focus on here, and it keeps us here and keeps us grounded, and that's good enough for us.
Have you ever thought of just getting in the car, shutting the door, and just have a map in the side of the door there, the inside. Just say, you know what? Let's just go and just frickin' tear up the road and just wherever you land.
We used to do it all the time. We used to do that all the time when we lived in Georgia. Just jump in the car and go for a drive. I can't remember the last time we did that. You know, we used to do it every once in a while in Hawaii. Of course, now you're limited. You can't really go all that far, but we would drive around the island. We lived on Oahu, and from our house right in the middle of the island, we could drive up to North Shore and then drive around from the north part of the island, the northernmost tip, all the way down to around Honolulu, and then come back up to our house. And it was, I remember it was 109 miles, that drive. And I don't think we've done that since we came back from Hawaii. And I was thinking about that earlier today. When was the last time we just jumped in the car and went for a drive? I think we did it a couple of times when we first moved up here. I showed her some of my old stomping grounds, old fishing holes and things like that. But other than that, we just really haven't done it. And I think we need to.
The funnest, when at some point I had a terrible auto accident, and my car was freaking totaled, and so some people had made a U-turn, and it was a disaster because it was horrible, and I needed a car, and my dad took me. He said, "Look, you got to do it quick. You know, I have my work to do. I was at the casino, and he couldn't be constantly taking me. And he says, look, let's get a car and stuff. And yeah, but I got to think about it. And I was actually a little bit not wanting to even drive after that because it messed me up pretty bad. And he said, you got to do it. So we drove, down 8th Street or Flagler, I forget which one, until we found one of those little car dealers. And it was in such a rush. I just needed a car. And I saw this car sitting up. It was a blue Miata, something totally different than I had ever, but it was a convertible, and it was a blue Miata, a little car. I was like, man, that just looks like fun. And I told that to my dad, and he said, buy it. And we hadn't even gotten to the thing. And I said, Dad, yeah, but I don't know. Is it practical, this and that? He says, listen, you only, I don't know that he said you only live once, but that was the sort of tone of it. He says, son, enjoy it. And so I followed and we drove up, and the car dealer came up, and he's like, well, this car, and I started looking at it, and I was a little bit more accelerated in my searching through the car and looking at this and the tires, and can we see the hood? And the dealer, I don't know what he said. Hey, I'm the one selling you the car here. Like, he felt that
dissed.
Yeah, dissed, because we were sort of like, I was already ready to, and so, well, whatever, I bought the cool thing about that car was that since it was convertible, it didn't have an electric retractable, but with one hand, since it's so small and it was stick, you could unlock it above your head and just pull your arm back and sit the top right back behind you whenever you so chose to do so. Mm-hmm. And you could be driving in downtown Miami and you say, okay, let me pop that. You pull it back, and all of a sudden at night when you're in downtown Miami and you're driving through those streets and those huge skyscrapers are all around you, the water, it's just such a tropical, plus the buildings, and it just, and driving with a lady next to you, it was such a wonderful, it felt, and I was in my 20s. It just felt like on top of the world. The car wasn't the most expensive car in the world, mind you, but it was so nice, clean, shiny, and it you know what I'm saying? Like we didn't have, it's not a Ferrari, it's not a freaking Porsche, but it was so cool, and the environment, it was a really, really cool thing to have. So I don't even know why we
I don't know why we got there either, but that's okay. I've had more cars than I can count. I can't count that high. I've been, generally speaking, a truck, sedan, or station wagon kind of guy. I haven't had the sporty cars. I've had a few what people would now call muscle cars, but I didn't keep them very long. To me, a vehicle was just a way to get from point A to point B. And I do a little bit of working on them, a little bit of tinkering, a little bit of fixing up, and then I'd sell it. Somebody would offer me money. Yeah, sure. I'd sell it and get something else that was a driver and then start tinkering and working on it. But I never really stuck with any one specific type. I mean, I've had pickups, I've had SUVs, I've had 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, I've had sedans, 2 doors, 4 doors, station wagons. I've got a thing for station wagons. I always have. It's kind of like a van. You put everything you want in the back of a station wagon, and then whenever you need it, you slam on the brakes and it hits you in the back of the head, you know. So I mean, years ago, I had a 65 Rambler American station wagon that I kept a rolled up sleeping bags in the back of it. And then I had the rifle racks that were supposed to go in the back window of a pickup. I put them in the side windows of the station wagon, and I had my fishing poles bungee corded in there because I'm not a hunter, but I am a fisherman. And we'd be out fishing, and if we were doing good, we'd keep fishing and keep fishing and keep fishing while the sun's going down. Okay, let's clean some fish and let's cook them and kick out the sleeping bags in the back of the station wagon, go to sleep and go home in the morning. And did that a lot. But I haven't done that in 40 years. So, you know, it was just a different time. It was I was a lot younger. I could get away with stuff like that. And my body wasn't beat up so bad. I was in the process of beating up my body. It wasn't feeling beat up, you know. But yeah, just getting up out of your chair, going outside, hopping in the car, starting it up and going for a drive with no destination in mind and not knowing where you're going or how long it's going to take you to get there. Finding a cool place to sit down and have something to eat or drink and then turn around and come home. That is a hobby in and of itself, but we haven't done it for a long time. We need to.
I think it's a good thing to, but one can get a little bit like stuck in a sort of rut, you could call it, or whatever, where, you know, certain things that do you good, you don't necessarily pay attention to doing. That's sort of, you know, like so I'm more in an investigative mood as of 2018. I'm in more of a investigative sort of mindset, which is very stimulating, but I don't know how balanced without some other type of you know, entertainment or diversion, you know.
It's all exploration and investigation. And if you're choosing to do it, I mean, you can investigate just as much in a library or an art gallery as you can, you know, out digging around an old volcano or something like that. It's all investigation. It's all satisfying curiosity. And it's whatever your priority happens to be at the time. And if right now it's doing online investigations and trying to track down certain ancestors, then that's what it is. But you're absolutely right that we do get jaded to our own surroundings. It's like we live 90 miles away from Crater Lake, and we've lived here for 8 years, and my wife has still never seen it. And we keep saying, this year we're going to go, this year we're going to go. And then things happen and we don't go. We've been halfway there twice, but we've never gone beyond that halfway point. We went there for other reasons. And both times it was like, man, next time we got to go all the way up to Crater Lake. She's never seen it. You know, we can't go now because the roads are closed. They don't plow the roads up there.
Right.
National monument. So the park is closed. If we got to it, the gates are down. We wouldn't be able to get into it. So it's a waste of time to even go now. We have to wait until after, I think it's May, they open it up.
Yeah.
June. So but it's one of the natural wonders of the world, and we live 90 miles away from it. But you get that mentality where, like, it's not going anywhere, it'll be there. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but you are, so you better get up there and see it if you plan on it. I need to bump it up the priority list.
Yeah, it would be good. It would be cool to do a exhaustive exploration. This is a big, but an exhaustive exploration via vehicle, no attachments to like a Greyhound or a tour bus or anything like that. Just on your own,
Yeah,
across America, exhaustive of of landmarks and towns and sightseeing stuff. That is a cool, and of course we have the beauty of not only photographs but recording or going live.
yeah, that's
you know,
true. I mean, you may have seen it 100 times, but there's 1,000 people out there. For everyone who has seen it, there's 1,000 others who have never seen it. And you never know what other people are going to be interested in. I mean, I've said for a long time that you could take your cell phone or your tablet or whatever you want, and you can go down to Miami Beach or go hit just walk down some of the main drags that are there for the tourists and just start live streaming from there. Just start vlogging.
yeah,
And
but
you would get people watching
oh, for sure, for
just to
sure,
see what happens down there, because
yeah,
it's the perception the rest of the world has about Miami, and the spotlight and the rum drinks and the girls and the nightlife and all this other stuff. And I'm
yeah.
sure there is some of that in every city.
Not
But
like Miami.
right. Or Key West or something like that. There are people who would love to watch that,
Yeah, no, I think that is a great angle, except that my brain is the thrill of interviewing people in that context out on the streets is so not where I'm at mentally now. You know what I'm saying? Maybe if that was a year or two ago, I would have, and I did sort of do some videos like that, but I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not really in that sort of
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
Like, I
Same here.
don't talk to anybody. I literally don't want to look. I really don't. And it sounds bad, but it's like nothing good comes of it. I've come to the conclusion that the more interactions you have, you could argue that the more possible awesome connection experiences, and I see that, but I also see, more importantly, the more possibility of disaster, problems, headaches, and particularly with people in your close vicinity, that are just there all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm totally that guy that get off my lawn, or the guy out in the woods with a shotgun sitting by the porch in the middle of a prairie, and like, are you from the city? I totally just, my preferable sitting place is that. Leave me the hell alone. It's an honest thing.
Yeah, I've come to that. I've come to that position myself. I mean, I've traveled, I've done that, I've seen a lot. I mean, I don't think I wouldn't trade 99% of it. There's a few bad things that have happened along the way that that obviously we wish we didn't have to face, but overall, I mean, yeah. Uh, I I think I want to explore closer to home now. And I've got somebody else with me who is interested in seeing some of that stuff. But a lot of my exploration is much like yourself, is online anymore or through digital means. I mean, I have an ancestor who wrote a book that is still, I don't know if it's in, I don't think it's in, well, it may be in print still. I'm not sure.
Is it in
But
PDF?
yeah, you can find it online. And in fact, I think I've linked it to you a couple of times. I don't know. But his name was Jesse Applegate, and it was called A Day on the Cow Column. And it was a story told in the third person of a day on the wagon train on the first wagon train, the original 1843 immigration from Missouri to Oregon. And he wrote a book in the third person as if you're seeing this whole thing through his eyes. And it's in the public domain now.
That's awesome.
And there is no audiobook of it. I mean, if you go, and what brought me to this subject was one time I recommended to you to read or listen to an audiobook version of Mark Twain's Roughing It,
which I haven't done.
And I have looked for, and that was easy to find. It's all over YouTube, Mark Twain's Roughing It. And I looked for an audiobook version on YouTube of A Day on the Cattle Column, and there isn't one. So I've thought about sitting down in front of the microphone and recording one of my own, and I just haven't done it yet. So
I like that idea.
That's an adventure that I'm thinking about going on, but until a few things settle down around here and I'm able to clear some other projects off my plate, it's got to go on the back burner. But I'm gonna have to decide how far down the priority list I want to put that, because I do want to get it done. But I'm gonna have to compromise somewhere to get everything done, is what I'm getting at. So,
well, we've had that idea that I shared with you guys to do a I guess you'd call it a old Western serial, like audio radio show.
Yeah.
I like the good, warm, old timey feeling of that, and that's why that popped into my head. And what better thing to do? At least this is the idea, that to do that with friends, and try to replicate something. It doesn't have to be perfect or this or that, but it's a little project that we haven't realized. But I find, I think that's an intriguing thing, even if there's some slapsticky stuff in there. We
kind of all have a kind of a warm fondness for old time radio and what have you, and it kind of fits in with that. So, it would be a fun project to work on. It's just, we need 48-hour days, and that's all there is to it. It's funny, everybody kept telling me, when you retire, you're going to be busier than you ever thought you'd be when you was working. And it's the God's to honest truth. I keep joking about it all the time. I need to go out and get a job so I can get some rest, because it just, things keep piling up. And I don't know how I did it. I used to be able to handle this kind of thing, but not anymore. It's just like, holy cow, time gets away from me. So,
yeah.
And it doesn't seem to slow down. It just keeps going faster and faster and faster. I mean, almost to the point it was like, it can't be Tuesday again already. We just did this last week. Yeah, but Mark, it was 7 days ago.
We're too. See, the problem is that we're too aware of it all. We know the gig, and once you've gained certain, and I'm not saying that by any stretch of the imagination as if I have arrived at some place or whatnot. Hey, I've climbed the mountain and here I stand. But you can see the trajectory from the more days you have behind you, how everything becomes shorter, quicker time.
Yeah,
you start to see that, and it's an incredible phenomenon. Actually, it does bug out it does mess your senses up, in that your decision making on what's important, what's not, and just a whole slew of different things, and it could even cause paralysis, in a certain way, where like, well, I know time is fleeing, and I could do this, and this. Let me think about that for a while. Well, and then,
I don't even remember who I was talking to or why the conversation came up, but we were discussing the 7 deadly sins, and he started talking about sloth being one of the 7 deadly sins. And everybody has this mental image of sloth as being lazy. You're sitting around and nothing gets done. That's one definition. But another definition of sloth is having so many things to do and having so many projects going on at once that visible progress is hard to detect. So
Yeah.
you may be working on 6 different things all the time, but by having to divide your time between those 6 different things, you can't really tell that any progress has been made on them at all. And that's where I'm at. I've got 4 projects going on at once. They're all big projects, and I have to divide my time between those projects. And right now it looks like nothing's getting done at all. There is progress being made, but it's so small you can't really see it.
I've got one main project that I'm working on, and I've got the bulk of it done, but it's such a puzzle. And I'm going to try to make a YouTube video out of it, which is the long history of the Escojedo family. And I've got the names documented. I'm going to put, it's going to be, and then I've got the imagery that I have to do. There's no footage of the 1600s or 1500s. And I want to do a video of it. I'm going to do a PDF as well and all this and that. But I want to do a video thing since it's the format that, is enjoyable and easy to share with different people that might not, be interested. They might say, oh, let's check it out.
Well, not to mention that your family members as well. So,
well, the problem with that part is that they're all the ones that would be, or most, maybe 99% of them literally would be Spanish speakers predominantly in Spain. And I'm going to do it. It would be impossible, or it would be year after. It would be a long thing for me to get over and do this whole thing in Spanish and stuff. It's possible, but there's it's just very intricate. But that's my main project, and I'm still chipping away at it because there's just little turns and twists, and I have to put this correctly with that, and so that's just the prep work for me to then record audio over, of which I've got a time to a non-existent video that I will then fill in the blanks with maps and pictures, family photos, and but there's no 1500s video of people walking through forests in their medieval attire that I would need in order to accomplish. So then I have to get creative with so whatever. That's like my main thing, and it feels like I'm still sort of scratching along because it's
well, it's a big project. It's an ambitious project, but you could do Spanish subtitles, couldn't you?
Yeah, you're right. I could do that. Actually, I could use the translator that you use.
Yeah, Google has some. YouTube has some tools. I could help you out with that.
Okay, that sounds cool because I could always go back and fix anything that the automated thing would have wrongly.
You would fix the automated titles in English. This is all inside baseball. Sorry, guys. You fix the English subtitles, then you auto translate them into Spanish. But because you can read the language, you could go in and fix any mistakes there too.
Yeah, so that's a good solution. Although it's always, I don't know about you, I've done it a few times, but isn't it always, and there's good movies that are not in English. I prefer, for the enjoyment of not having to read and then look up at the picture. Oh, I missed. Yeah, she walked into the bathroom and she was naked. I missed it because I had to read that. Oh, honey, I'll be right back. And so I hate. Yeah. But there's great movies, but it's always. But I guess it's better than nothing, right?
True.
By the way, that movie was Cinderella that I was talking about.
Okay, yeah, that was one of the mice that became one of the horses that pulled the coach that was naked in the bathroom. So, okay, yeah, gotcha. Well, like I said, sorry, this is inside baseball stuff, but we could. I could help you work on something like that. I mean, it's fairly simple to do. And I demonstrated it the other day on Matt Haas's All Things YouTube show, translating from English to any other language. And I translate my videos from English to Spanish, 5 clicks. And that's it. It's done.
I will say this thing, though, because I have had to do a truckload of back and forth translating from in writing and whatnot, from the Spanish to the English and vice versa. And I use Google, like let's say English to Spanish or Spanish to English. Like if you type in English to Spanish, it'll pop up like a little square rectangle window, side by side, and you could type in hello, good morning, and on the left it'll say hello, good. You can press the little audio button, and it will speak it to you in either language that you wish.
Mhm.
I don't know if you knew that feature.
Yeah, I knew it, but I don't really use it. I auto translate the captions, and that's it.
So
'Cause I
what
don't
I
speak
would,
any of those languages.
but it's a cool little thing if you needed to in a quick. But what I've noticed is that many things, either I think, but as I see the translation, there's a few little things that are weird,
Yeah.
and totally miss the boat of what the English version was trying to translate to the Spanish. And I'm like, well, I didn't necessarily mean that. And that's gotten me not in trouble, but in communication with people that are investigators over there. Um, it I have to because it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, what did I just say?
Yeah, your daughter's pregnancy brings much joy to our village. Yeah. Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And oh my gosh, we got so far off track. Sorry, guys. Rick French, however, is absolutely correct, Eloy. Ken Burns made a small fortune, and his fortune is not all that small, combining story, photos, and video like that. He's absolutely right. If you've ever watched any Ken Burns documentaries,
I have.
oh, the guy is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, the Civil War one is very powerful.
Oh yeah, even baseball. I mean, just anything. He did a lot of documentaries on a bunch of varied topics, and I love his style.
The idea of taking a journal, someone's journal from the past, or something like that, right? And giving life to it in that fashion is so intriguing, and it's something that's been done. Obviously, Ken
Right.
Burns and others. It's such a powerful thing because there's lessons to be learned. There's also the imagination. Oh my goodness, we're going back in time. This is like real people in another era and stuff. It's just talking about. So last week, one day last week, I sent you a video which I thought was really cool, which was when we all see these old, and if you think of all the old 1920s, 30s, 40s movies and silent movies and all that, you look at it through the lens of the scratchy film of the time, and the motion is, well, what that film was capable of, and we're looking at these things, and there's a certain majestic thing to it, old-timey thing to it, but there was a guy on YouTube that took footage like that, like let's say 1911 New York or other places. He did a few, and what he did was he used a bunch of different mathematical software and color correction and speed correction, and so long story short, he took old film and transformed it into 60 frame per second color corrected, correctly sped up, so that these people in those old-timey movies are moving like we would see something on YouTube today. And it is, for me, it was jaw-dropping to see them like we would see a video today.
Yeah, it took that choppiness, because you're talking about the old hand crank movie cameras. And some of this footage was from like 1898, 1899, and up into, I think the newest was like 1911, 1912, something like that.
Yeah.
So this is old footage. And you're absolutely right. The way people moved, everybody was walking real quickly and, real elaborate steps, and because the frame rate wasn't really standardized, because the guy is sitting there cranking the camera, because there was no real standardization just yet. But he used this AI software to smooth all that out and bring it up in 60 frame per second. And it really did a good job. Now, having said that, there are a few areas, if you watch, you can see the color drop out just slightly here and there. especially if you get off into the periphery and to the sides. If somebody walks out of frame,
Yeah.
as they're leaving the frame, the color kind of drops out, the colorization. But other than that, it does. It takes something from 1904 and makes it look like it was put out in like the 90s or 2000s.
Yeah, and to be clear, we're talking about not your, because I know that we've all seen more than likely black and white movies turned into color.
Right.
But we're not talking about, this guy took it a few steps ahead, where by adding those extra missing frames, he created a realistic, because if you have a camera and you film 24 frames per second, you get that sort of movie like motion, and it's what most of us are used to. But if you have the ability in your camera to crank it to 60 frames per second, and you play that back at home, you're going to see your video look very realistic. Like it's those 60 frames per second that causes that. Well, he added the missing frames by doubling up frames and whatnot. There's a whole process for it. And boy, so this is not your standard just colorizing old video movies.
Yeah. So are you thinking about posting a link to that video over on the Trampled Underfoot Podcast Facebook page?
We will do that. I will grab that and post it over there on our Trampled Underfoot Podcast page on Facebook for sure.
It was a longer video, so settle in with a beverage and everything. I mean, but I don't think it was longer than 20 minutes. It wasn't like it was an hour and a half long epic. It was, but it had a lot of different scenes, and we're not talking about scenes from movies or what have you. This was old footage from the infancy of motion pictures, where it might be just some people walking out to an area and jumping on a coach, and then the horses leaving and them driving away, or it might be a bunch of people getting off of a ship. But it all looks like it was shot last month. It doesn't look like it was shot in the late 1890s or the early 1900s. It's really some very cool footage.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty impressive. So with that said, let me mention to you guys that we are sponsored by Harneal Media. That's Steve Nealon at harnealmedia.com. And if you're interested in doing something online, you need a website, or you want to sell some products. Maybe you have the products that you need to sell, would like to sell, and have a place for yourself with your brand. Or maybe you don't even know what you want to sell. You want to sell something. Well, Steve can get that set up for you. It's a, what would you say, one-on-one personalized service. So prices are great as well. And you could talk to Steve over at harnealmedia.com.
Link in the description box below. But
that's right.
We know Steve best because he sponsors our website, TrampledUnderfootPodcast.com. Well, we don't know him because he sponsors our website. He sponsors our website because he knows us. And he's just that kind of a guy. But TrampledUnderfootPodcast.com. That's where you can go and check out what we've posted. Our episodes come out, the audio version, Tuesday mornings at 3:30 a.m. Pacific time, 6:30 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday mornings. The audio version does. And we record these episodes here on YouTube Tuesday nights at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific. But over at Trampled Underfoot Podcast, you will find every past episode that we have put out. This being episode 126, that means you have 125 episodes over there to explore. Just click that link that says Wayback Machine, and you can just lose yourself in hours of entertainment. And some of it's pretty fun. Some of it's pretty serious. A lot of it is pretty goofy, but just about all of it is very enjoyable. We think you'll find something over there you like. It's TrampledUnderfootPodcast.com, sponsored by Steve Nealon over at Harneal Media.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for this evening, folks. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Hope you enjoyed it, and we wish you a happy week. Catch you here next time.
Next time. Okay, good. Fade out.
Bing.
Now we can BS with people in the chat. Seen some new faces over there. Rick French, welcome aboard. And who else that was back up here? Guy Brown, welcome aboard. Nice to have you added to the family. I don't know where you found us or where you heard of us. We're just two guys who talk about anything and everything. And sometimes we even make sense. But welcome aboard. And we got our usual cast of characters over there. We have Steve Nealon, of course, Frankie CNC and Woodworking Channel, Jim Bashirs. How are you feeling? Hope you're feeling better. I mean, looks like you said you went upstairs to get some coffee, so you must be feeling good enough to be ambulatory anyway. Let's see who else is hanging out here. My other half, my better half, my best half, Linda Lindsay. Did I freeze up?
I don't know if it's me or you.
Well, no, I froze up on my side, so it's got to be me. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you, and now you're back. So you're the one that froze, or was it?
Yeah,
me?
I froze up. I saw myself freezing, and I was all, or whatever, this way.
So wait a second. So that thing that happened to you
Uh-huh.
is what usually happens to me here on my end.
Yeah, it happened twice during the podcast, but your audio kept coming in nice and clear, so I didn't say anything.
So I don't know what the heck, man.
I don't know either. Well, I really don't know what's going on. It's just weirdness.
I think there's an internet conspiracy going on.
Who knows?
Don't dispel it.
I didn't dispel it. I said, who knows? Jim Dockrell's here also, over by that lake. And Greg the Snow Crusher. Jamie Page was here earlier. Don't know if he ducked out or not.
Portal.
David Jones, Portal Woodworks. He was here. Don't know if he ducked out. Daniel Hardew. How are you?
How do you?
Yeah, how do you? And that appears to be it. But Jamie was talking about, he said, let's see. Well, Jamie said, he says, I love it when Americans say they're going to Europe. Okay, you going to Margate or Macedonia? That's kind of like Brits who say, yeah, I've been to the States. Where'd you go? New York. Okay, one town.
So, and by the way, I mean, so are you trying to say that Margate's right here and Macedonia is not right there? I mean, come on.
What he's saying is you say you're going to Europe, okay, but there's a lot of places in Europe. Okay, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. I've been there. But there's a lot of places in the States too. And Jamie knows that because he went all over the place.
There's no need for us to get tribal because now we got Jamie Page from Europe doing the European thing. That's cool. We're over here doing the American thing. And now all of a sudden, bing, bang, boom, and we're going to be at odds.
Nah, we're not going to be at odds, you know. And he says, I've been the band at Eloy's house, slept with the guitars and drums while he brings me breakfast in bed and drinks.
Am I frozen?
No, I'm frozen.
Okay, continue.
Frozen. Then he says, don't laugh, Mark. Like I was going to laugh at that. I don't know why. I don't know why you thought I was going to laugh at that. So.
Hey man, we you know, I mean, so it's true. We go broad strokes and stuff, but what are you gonna do? You know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, you're absolutely right. It's 100% tribal.
It's tribal. You know what do you? It's just that's how it works.
All over the place. This city is the best. The next city over sucks. And if you lived in that city would be the best, and this city would suck. So you know. It's all friendly. It's kind of like, you see, you were an only child, so you never got to experience this, but it's kind of like a big brother or little brother. I can pick on him all day. I can beat him up. I can have arguments with him all the time, but don't you try it. That's my brother. He's not your brother. And I got his back if you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way, you know, we all are. And we're all friends. So
it's all good.
Yep, it is. Frankie says it's like sitting at the bar listening to a couple folks talk. Yeah. And we get older and older. But, you know, I don't know about if we're like the whiskey and get better with age or if we're like the cheese back behind the bar, and we just don't age well. But
I've always liked those midnight, late night radio shows where they have a topic and there's an air of mystery to it. It could even be a historical thing. I've always liked that. So when we're doing these things, at least in the back of my head, I'm thinking that vibe. I don't know that we capture that or something different or whatever, but I'm thinking in the context of that, that feeling as a kid that you were all excited and it was like you get a little chill because you're about to watch a movie or something like that. The unknown or some sort of mysterious. I kind of like that radio type of thing. I guess, was it George Norrie or Art Bell?
Yeah, are you talking about like Coast to Coast AM? And
I always like, I like that. I like that sort of, some topics I didn't like as much, but well, whatever.
Yeah. Well, there was old talk radio was a completely different animal to what it is now, in that they had to stay away from certain subjects because of various doctrines that were law and a lot of radio policy and things like that. But it was more restricted. So they couldn't talk about certain things. They had to keep it benign. You had a lot of comedy shows. You had a lot of talk about absolutely nothing. And then you had subject like what they do on like Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell, George Norrie, whoever it is. You had those shows, but you also had shows that featured they weren't featured. They were focused on detectives, or you had shows that were focused on truck drivers. I mean, you had certain radio shows that were syndicated that were geared toward a certain demographic that had nothing to do with current events. And the only mention of the news was the top of the hour news if they had it, So, but listening to AM radio at night was always kind of an adventure for me, because that's when they turned their broadcasting power down a little bit, but they aimed their antennas differently. So you would start picking up stations from hundreds of miles away. And I'm a 10-year-old kid in San Francisco, California, listening to a radio station from Seattle, Washington, where I'd never been before. And it was just cool to hear the local commercials from up there and what were they listening to and what were they talking about and local things that were going on. And, oh, this concert's going to be happening. And, oh, this football team did this. It's like, wow, that's cool. So it was always an adventure to try to hear radio stations from as far away as you could.
It is and I think that, well, luckily the internet the Internet Archives has preserved a truckload of that. But the feeling of you're limited, right? You have that radio, and if you imagine people back then, they only had the radio, but the richness of language and the imagination could fill in the blank. So when they talked about monsters, everybody might have a slightly different variation of the monster, or of the detective, or of the cowboy, how he was dressed and stuff. But the imagination filled in the blank. And I think that there had to have been something good about that. So we had TV and all that, which leaves little to the imagination as far as, the brain sort of imagining what the Incredible Hulk looks like or whatever. But they had that. And I'm sure that the imaginations ran wild.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you had to use your imagination because you had nothing visual. You had no frame of reference. So, and that's why I think, I don't know, I hesitate to say radio actors were better than TV actors, because I don't think it was necessarily down to the actors. I think it was down to the writers. But when you don't have to be descriptive, because you can see it, you don't have to put as much emphasis on setting a scene.
Yeah.
When you can see on television that this detective is walking to an old dive bar and there's some guy playing piano over in the corner, when you can see that,
You don't need to say it.
you don't have to set the scene. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to have a narrator. You don't have to have somebody recounting the mystery. Now, you can in film noir, but that's not necessarily, unless you're trying to pull off that genre, that's not really a necessary thing. I mean, there aren't a whole heck of a lot of film noir westerns. It's usually that one genre, the detective mystery, that you get into something like that.
Although now that you're mentioning it, I would totally dig watching a new movie where they did that, where there's a narrator. I mean, there are some instances of narration, but they don't do it, by law throughout the whole film anymore.
I think about the newest one, and again, I'm no judge of this because I'm a cultural infidel. I mean, the last movie I saw in the theater was The Rain Man. So I'm no judge of that. I'm no barometer as to what's popular. But the last movie that I can think of that was done that way was A Christmas Story, and that was back in the 80s. The narrator was walking through the entire story as it was happening. Everything from the leg lamp to the Red Ryder BB gun to going to visit Santa and the kid who sticks his tongue to the pole and everything. It was narrated. But that's the most recent one that I can think of.
Yeah.
Linda says The Minions. Well, okay, the Minions movie, yeah. It's narrated. Yeah, okay.
I guess I'll mention this. I don't know how you're gonna, how you would feel about this one or react to this one. How about musicals?
It depends on what it is. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't.
Okay, all right,
Oh.
Right. I'm with you on that. There's some that I enjoyed, and just for the retroness of it, that I enjoyed. But it wasn't anything to write. I mean, people singing their lines is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, as a general rule of thumb, it's like, give me a break. And if you add dancing to the mix of it, it starts getting really, really annoying quickly. But then again, there's some cool stuff out there. Like, I can't remember to save my life, but
well, if it's within context of the movie, I think it's fine. But
yeah,
it was kind of the trope of the time that, because remember, they were going into movies from vaudeville. So people went to vaudeville shows expecting to see little one-act plays, but also expecting to see a musician and some dancers and a singer and a band and things like that. So it was a variety show on stage. So they were coming to motion pictures with that mindset. So you did add things like that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of done to keep people's attention at the time. As soon as sound came along, just about every movie had one or two musical numbers in it. Not every movie, but a good percentage of them did. I mean, all the way up to the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby road movies, and Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis had their heyday. And
Elvis Presley was riddled with it.
Presley, yeah. And we're talking about up into the 60s.
Yeah.
So, not every movie had it. I mean, nobody in Psycho started doing a soft shoe or, started singing or what have you. But, and I don't remember a big musical number in Gone with the Wind, but I could be wrong. Maybe I saw an edited version, but that was, I mean, and some of them are fine. Some of them are great. It just depends on the context of the flick.
Yeah.
But, the Busby Berkeley, all of a sudden, all the women are in a swimming pool and synchronized dancing in the water and that was never my thing either.
Yeah, it's like, are we going to have to go through this part of the movie? Come on. Let's get back to the actual, it's like a break, and then the violin, and then people jumping in the swimming pool.
Yeah, all synchronized, they can bat their eyes in unison, you know.
It's like incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, I think that we're ready to go. Are you guys ready to go home?
Yeah, we're both starting to have a little bit of internet trouble here, and I really got to investigate this because I don't want to be locking up like this on my live stream on Sunday.
Do
Like
you think?
I had a problem last week with my audio started going roboting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it was a combination of a couple of things. I started getting all kinds of warnings from YouTube in the control room. You know, sometimes you'll get those warnings pop up. And I had a lot of stuff open. I think a lot of it is I need to restart my computer and I just need to close some tabs and browser pages.
Have I froze up since the last time we talked about it?
Yes.
So since you mentioned it that I had froze up again.
You just did it just now. As you said, froze up. You did it just now.
And how long did my freeze up last?
Just a microsecond.
Okay. But yours is like frozen and you're talking and talking and talking. It stays there and then it unlocks.
Yeah, it's like yours slows down a little bit and then it comes right back in.
There's something a matter. Look, I don't want to be conspiratorial back here in 2021. Okay, but something is amiss, ladies and gentlemen, and somebody's pulling the strings around here, and we got to find out who. We don't know, but something's weird because my internet was just perfectly fine prior to last week.
So you just froze up again. Your video just froze again, but your audio, there was a couple of little, but your audio was just fine. When you go to Duty Edit, you'll hear it. When you go to Duty Edit, you'll
maybe
hear it.
We should just every other word should be, we accept the powers of our overlords. We accept the powers of our overlords. Please continue giving us internet. Please continue.
Like the guy on Animal House. Whack! Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Oh man!
What can you say? I mean, and then there is such a thing as coincidence. I
mean, but that's not as fun.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, don't discount coincidence.
That's true.
Stuff happens.
All right, folks, we're out of here. We'll catch you next time. Be good, be safe. Wear your mask, wear your socks, put a little coat on when you go outside if it's too nippy. Make sure that you eat all of your pudding and or porridge. No, eat your porridge. How can you have any, what is it?
How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat?
That's it.
Yes, you behind the bike sheds. Stand still, laddie.
Catch you next time, folks. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. See you next week.